thanks a lot for talking to Action24, first of all. It's quite nice returning to some kind of normality nowadays after the pandemic, right?
Yeah, I'm glad that the awards are happening again, because the last live one was in Berlin in February 2020. So we've gone 3 years without it, remote version. So I'm happy to be here, see some of my fellow Academy members after many years, 3 years now. So I'm glad that we're live, and I'm glad that we're in Paris, the Olympic city, next year.
How did you experience this isolation period?
I live by myself, so, and my son is in Europe. He lives in Berlin. So for me, it was routine. I'm not the type of person who's around a lot of people anyway. So I had things that I could do. In the summertime, I have a garden and I have trees and fruits and food. I love to cook. So for me, it wasn't that big of a problem.
Mm-hmm. How do you think it was for a professional athlete who used to be outdoors training or getting ready to compete in major events? How do you think it was this period?
Well, in track and field, for me, I was always an individual athlete, and I came up without a lot of facilities anyway, so I would have definitely found a way. But if you're on a professional sports team, as my son was, playing professional volleyball in Spain, everything came to a stop for those people. So I don't think it was easy at all.
Talking about you, out of your achievements in athletics, which one do you have a special spot in your heart for?
I think my first Olympic gold medal, world record, first year running the race. I think that was maybe my 15th race total in my career. That was something special. I remember the day I won. I was only 20 years old, and I was just completely focused on performing, like running the type of time and performing the way that I wanted to. So I think that kind of set the tone for the rest of my career. But the second biggest one was LA, the LA Olympics, being able to run in front of 100,000 Americans virtually in my hometown. That was huge.
I guess you remember every single detail from that day and from that race.
I remember the race. I don't remember a lot else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How was the race? Can you bring it back to your memory?
That race was not a great race for me. I ran enough to win. Back in those days, we ran Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had no break in between. Mm-hmm. 400-meter hurdles today, they run like every one day, off day, run again, off day, and then run again for the final, that makes the possibility completely different. So those 3 days in a row really has a lot to do with who's going to win on that third day. Because you can run okay on the first day, great on the second day, and be tired on the third. So for me, it wasn't the fastest race. In fact, it was the slowest race, championship race that I've ever run in my whole life almost, on that day. But it was hot, 3 days in a row, so everyone was affected by that.
So it was all about winning.
It's all about winning, yeah.
There is a big chat these days about Russian athletes coming back into major events after being expelled due to what happens in Ukraine. You were a victim of a boycott. Correct me if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this?
1980. With the Ukrainian people, I think that the war is unjust and very nasty situation. It's completely uncalled for. And when it comes to the civilians and children and people just living their life that aren't military targets, just being slaughtered all the time, I'm not for that at all. I think that, you have the IOC and all these sports governing bodies on one side of the scale, then you have the athletes on the other side of the scale, and I think the conclusions are very, very different. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've seen that as a member of WADA, where the athletes wanted the Russians to not be able to compete, but the authorities did. And so there's always that unbalance where the bodies are not really speaking for the athletes. And in fact, the two conclusions probably are opposite.
So should they come back or not?
I'll just,
If you can,
that's for me, that's for the athletes today to decide and the governing bodies to decide. I just stay out of it completely. I don't have a vote. I'm not affected. I'd like to see an Olympic Games with everyone in it, but at some stage, it's just not realistic to have that happen and have it be fair.
talking about us, have you been in Greece?
Several times.
Do you have a special spot? Earlier I was talking to Nawal El Mutawakil and she said she loves being in ancient Olympia, in that ancient stadium. Have you visited it?
I'm thinking that I went there one time, but it was maybe in the early 80s. I don't even remember. I think I drove by. I didn't really go into it, but I drove by Olympia years and years ago, like 40 years ago. I don't even remember. I've been to Athens. I didn't go to the Olympic Games, but I've been to the island of, what is it, Evia. I've been there for like 2 weeks on vacation, and that was just great.